All right, hi everybody. It's Bruce from the Epic Experiment Podcast back again. We're bringing you another deck tech. Little summation of where we were at. So I was playing the other night with some of my friends, and we always have a rule, and everyone knows what happens at the end of the night, where everyone decides we're going to try and squeeze one more game in. And this used to be known as the game that shouldn't happen, or the bad idea game, or whatever you want to call it. My friends and I have decided that last game of the night, we've all agreed, this was the last one, it's not a bad idea, it's an everybody get dead game. So you got to show up with something that's going to get everybody dead. You cannot durdle. If you're going to durdle and you're going to pick control and you're going to make things miserable for everybody, put that deck away, find something else that's going to turn things sideways and slap the lips off somebody. So I reached into my box and I pulled out Roxanne, Starfall Savant. She is a terrific little commander, and let's read her for you. So, 3 green red for a cat druid. Whenever Roxanne Starfall Savant enters the battlefield or attacks, create a tapped colorless artifact token named Meteorite. With when Meteorite enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target, and tap to add 1 mana of any color. And then, whenever you tap an artifact token for mana, add 1 mana of any type that artifact token produced. Okay, Roxanne is terrific. I love Roxanne because Roxanne, A, comes with removal attached to her, but B, she ends up paying for herself. Because when you end up bringing her down, you make the meteorite, and then when you attack, you make a second one so that if they kill it, you can now recast it and start even more artifacts. So the deck she's terrific and super fun, but the deck needs a bunch of stuff to go. All right. Let's break down what this does. For starters, let's talk about the ramp package. That seems unexciting, but that's where we're at. So, Flare Cultivation, new toy from MH3, really, really good. Bard class doesn't look like it's ramp, but the level 2 legendary spells you cast cost a red and a green less. That means you're casting your Roxanne for cheaper. Not to mention she might come in with a +1% counter, all that stuff. Druid class lets you play extra lands for turn when you get to the second mode. Kodama's Reach, enough said. Goblin and Narcomancer. Each spell you cast as red or green costs 1 generic less to cast. Help you pay for your Roxanne, keep her coming back. The good old Sol Ring, you need that one. Generous Ent. Generous Ent is actually a really neat card because of the fact you can cycle it, and then you can go and get a forest, which could be not just a basic forest, but any forest. The value of these cycling lands, cycling creatures from Lord of the Rings have been understated. It's terrific. People still know about it, and people should play more of them. Beanstalk Giant. Well, you're playing it for the front half where you're going to go get the land. Sometimes you get a big old creature out of it too, but who knows. Nature's Lore. Goody, oldie. Go get a thing. Go get a land. Rampant Growth. Let's go get a thing. Cultivate. Let's go get more things. Springbloom Druid, that is a harrow on a creature. Yes, please. And then, when you have all that land, Zendikar Resurgent lets them tap for 2, and sometimes lets you chain off with extra cards. All right. Then, let's talk about how we're making artifacts, because this deck really cares about you making a bunch of mana and a bunch of artifacts. So, let's start at the beginning. So, when you play your lands for turn, and you start making treasures, you're making all sorts of things. Academy Manufactor, there's a lot of treasure makers in here. This is going to make you to make treasures and food and clues, all sorts of good stuff. Then we've got his buddy, Jorn. So Jorn is by far and away the best buddy to go with your Academy Manufactor, because if you make a treasure, now you make an additional treasure. So, good friend. Jolene the Plundering Pugilist. She is a 4/2 for a 1 red and green. She's also legendary, and whenever you attack with 1 or more creatures with power 4 or greater, create a treasure token, which your Academy Manufacturer and Jorn love. And then 1 in a red, sacrifice a treasure. Jolene Plundering Pugilist deals 1 damage to any target. All right. Bootlegger Stash. This was a much maligned mythic from New Capenna, but now you can tap to make treasures, and your manufacturer loves it, and your Jolene loves it. Goldvein Hydra. This thing has a Vigilance, Trample, Haste. Goldvein Hydra enters the battlefield with X +1 counters on it. And when Goldvein Hydra dies, create a number of tapped treasure tokens with equal to its power. More treasures. Tyler's Provisioner makes treasure or makes food. And then Svela makes yourself an ice token, an ice manolith that also taps for mana. So you can use that to play with Roxanne's ability. And last but not least, for the common good, create X tokens that are copies of target token you control. So you're going to target your mana rocks and your meteorites and things like that with that. Okay. Next, we need to draw some cards. Otherwise, our deck falls apart and everyone goes, oh my goodness, I am sad. Well, Viridian Revel is there mostly to torment your opponents because if they have treasures and food and clues, then you're going to draw cards. Brass's Tunnel Grinder is much underrated, but is an excellent red card that allows you to discard cards you do not need and then draw cards, and then you can eventually flip it over into a land. Garrick Primal Hunter is a Planeswalker. Let's be real, Planeswalkers are not awesome in decks, in Commander usually, but his -3, draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control, is often really useful. Minsk and Boo, Timeless Heroes. Well, you're making Boo, then you're putting counters on Boo, and eventually the -2, you're sacking that creature with haste and going to be drawing cards. Greater Good. So this is my fail-safe that in the event of I need to draw cards or someone board wipes or something, I have a way for me to go and get value from all the stuff that's been destroyed on my board. So you sacrifice creature, draw cards equal to its power, and then discard 3 cards. Escape to the Wild, so it puts things into exile, lets you make extra land drops. Useful card. Seize the Spoils. Again, same sort of idea. You draw 2 cards and create a treasure, but you gotta discard one. So, useful card. All right. So, card draw and ramp and all those ways to make your treasures. What are you doing with all that mana? Well, there's the things, all the creatures that I want to play. So, a couple of the big thumpers. We've got ourselves a Gulta. We've got ourselves a Vaultborn Tyrant. We've got ourselves an Atali Primal Conqueror. Those things are just pretty awesome creatures to go and thump people with. Gulta Stampede Tyrant seems to be a good inclusion. Oh, it's a little glary there. Seems to be a good inclusion as well. Hopefully, if you've got a few things in your hand, you can then turbo them onto the field with Gulta to great effect. We've got Combustible Gearhulk, one of my all-time favorite cards, is reasonably affordable too. I think it's only a couple of dollars, but you can give your opponents a choice. You could draw 3 cards, or you can put the 3 cards in the graveyard and they can take damage equal to your converted mana cost. You're basically playing a game of chicken with your opponent, and they may or may not want to play along with you. Big fan of this card. I love to recur it as much as I can. All right, so we've got lots of other really cool red and green creatures. Among the other ones that I got here, this Helena and Elena Partners. I like this one, not so much for the fact that it itself is going to lay a beating on people, but it's going to put counters and give things haste. And haste is really the name of the game when you got Roxanne, because you want to get her onto the battlefield and you want to get swinging with her. So let's look at some other ways that we have to make haste with her. So we've got Rising of the Day, and then creatures you control have haste, and then legendary creatures you get have +1/+0. So Roxanne loves it, and then creatures have haste, which is even better, so you get the trigger right away. Good friend. Enduring Courage from Duskmourn is a great inclusion because it is Ogre Battle Driver on a stickier creature. So the other creature enters the battlefield, it gets +2/+0 and gains haste, and then if it dies, it turns into enchantment, makes it hard for your opponents to get rid of it. Hammer of Perforos, give things haste, and then maybe you turn a land into a colorless Golem enchantment, probably not. And Rhythm of the Wild, creatures spells you control have can't be countered, and non-token creatures you control have Riot, which means they have a choice of entering with a +1/+1 counter, or they have haste. All right, let's talk about some removal. I don't have a ton in this list. All right, so removal, the only real removal other than Roxanne's Meteorite, I've got a Chainsaw and I've got an Abrade. I think these 2 cards are, I really like Chainsaw. Because it gives, it pumps the power on your creature once you start killing a few things. Abrade because it's flexible. There are a few other ways that you can get some removal in here. So Terror of the Peaks is doesn't look like it's a removal spell, but when you're playing a suite of creatures the way we have here, you can usually nug whatever you want dead and get rid of it. You also need to protect your things, so we've got some protection spells here. So we've got a Veil of Summer, we've got a Wrap in Vigor, we've got a Smuggler's Surprise. All these in one way or another protect your spells. So Smuggler's Surprise does have a mode where it can give your creatures indestructible and hexproof. Wrap in Vigor allows you to regenerate your creatures. And Veil, draw a card if an opponent casts a blue or black spell this turn. Spells you control can't be countered. You and permanents you control gain hexproof from blue and from black until end of turn. So they can't really blow you out too easily with that stuff. And then last but not least, Flare of Duplication, which could be used offensively, but I think is often used to duplicate somebody else's counterspell and fire it right back at them so you don't end up getting wrecked with that. How do I win the game? What do? I make piles of mana and have really big creatures. So Fiery Emancipation makes everything do triple damage, and boy, oh boy, is that just good fun. So Fiery Emancipation is your buddy. Crackle of Power. Since we have 1,000,000 mana, we may as well make good use of it and fire it at our opponent's faces. And this one says Crackle of Power deals 5 times X damage each of up to X targets. It's a little tricky with XX and then red, 3X spell and then red. So you have to spend a lot of mana, but you get a big boom. Hellkite Tyrant, you're going to be making a lot of artifacts. So the fact that you can possibly own up to 20 is a surefire, a pretty easy bet if this can stick and stick around for a whole turn cycle. And last but not least, we have Comet Storm. This one sort of was much maligned as being a card in one of the Modern Masters sets years ago, but this still is a really good card. Choose any target, then choose another target for each time this spell was kicked. Comet Storm deals X damage to each of them, and the spell is XX and a red with a multi-kicker of 1. All right, altogether, this whole list is under $350. All right, you can do a lot of things with this deck. And there are some pieces in here that are a little bit pricey. I will admit, the Vaultborn Tyrant is a pricey card. Galta Stampede Tyrant is a pricey card. Jolene the Plunder Queen here doesn't look like she's very much, but she's actually quite pricey. So you could easily sub those out and keep this deck under $300 without any difficulty, just by subbing out 3. And there's lots of other big, stompy, chonky green and red things that you could substitute in their places. This is what I've built. You can see the complete list on Moxfield. It'll be in the notes down below, so you can check it out. But this is a great way to really surprise opponents because you can do a lot of damage out of nowhere in a hurry. Not to mention, Roxanne pays for herself. So if you're finding it hard to keep your commander in play, this might be a really good way to get it because Roxanne is going to help pay for herself to help you get there along the way. All right, folks, that's the deck. If you like it, you want to make a suggestion, you want to know more about it, leave a comment down below or check out the podcast each and every week on your favorite podcast apps. And we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks very much, everybody. Be good. Talk to you later. Peace.